For New Year's, I'd like you to make a resolution to become a major inconvenience. Now, if you want to make the world a better place, that requires work. And unfortunately, the people you're going up against are rich and powerful. So it requires some hard yakka. You're going to have to, basically put your nose to the grindstone and actively work to be as big a pain in the bum as you can to these people. So I'm sure you've had a period in your life where someone said, "Oh, that's just the way things are." And you've rallied against that. You've wanted to change it. You've tried to change it. You've done whatever. If you have, let me know. I'd love to hear the stories. But the thing is, the powerful love to just tell us that's the way things are, as if it's writ in stone and can never be changed. The thing about stone is, a couple of good blows with a sledgehammer, you can shatter it. The thing about stone is, if a tree root gets in there, starts to grow, it'll split the rock. It might take decades, might take thousands of years, but it'll get there. The point is that nothing is unchangeable. Our politicians who listen to lobbyists of the rich and powerful like to tell us it's not doable. But the thing is, ordinary people have been changing the nature of things for thousands of years. I mean, imagine if when we lived in caves or in the forest, someone had said, and some people probably did, we can't build any permanent structures. Why not? That's just the way things are. So yeah, you got to fight against this stuff. Let's see a couple of examples of what there is. 1955, Rosa Parks in Montgomery in the US. Back then, black folks were expected to give up their seat to white people if, the bus was particularly full. Famously, Rosa Parks, if you don't know who she is, look her up, went, "No, I'm not giving up my seat," which caused a huge kerfuffle because that made her an uppity black person. And we can't be having with that. The entire community rallied around her. And for 381 days, black people refused to take the bus. They walked to work, they biked to work. If they knew someone with a car who could give them a lift, they got a lift. But for the most of them, they couldn't afford any of that stuff. So most of them just walked every day. They walked to school, they walked to work, they did all this. And after a little bit over a year, the Montgomery Council went, "Okay, yep, just start taking the bus again because we're losing a ton of money." And that's where us little people are powerful. The billionaires and the corporations forget all their money comes from us. Another example of ordinary people changing things. 1983, the tree sitters at the Franklin River in Tasmania. These people outright refused to let them put a dam on the Franklin River. So what a bunch of them did, apart from having rallies and doing all the usual stuff, they also climbed up into the trees and stayed there for weeks and months and days. And eventually they got their way. The Franklin River wasn't dammed. And possibly my favourite example, another Australian one, 1972, January 26th. I can't remember the names of the four folks involved, but four Aboriginal men set up a beach umbrella at Parliament House and basically started protesting about Aboriginal land rights and things. Now, they got moved on, they moved around a little bit from time to time, but they never stopped from that point on. Not just them, but a whole bunch of other people who joined in. And, well, that one hasn't made the impact that I would have liked, but they're still going even today. In less than a month, it'll be 53 years. And they're still going. The Aboriginal Tent Embassy. Look it up. And this is it, though. These people all sat there and didn't accept that's just how it is. That's just how things are. They refused to play the role that the powerful wanted them to play. And that's what I want you to do. Stop playing the roles they want you to play. And of course, there's lots of other examples. There's women's voting. Little history fact, women's clothing used to have pockets. They did away with the pockets, partially because they started to worry that women would, around the time of the women's suffragette movement, they started to worry that women would carry around dangerous things like pamphlets. You look it up. And then, of course, we've got slavery, child labour, LGBTQ plus rights. I always stumble over that because when I first started hearing about this, it was just LGB rights. And then it became LGBT and then LGBTQ. And I try not to forget anyone, but I often end up just doing the first four letters because that's what I default to. I was fine with that original change. I've just had trouble catching up, but I'm totally for everyone's rights to be who they are. And environmental protections are another thing that got changed. So, yeah, ordinary people going enough is enough and being willing to endure some personal hardship have changed the world. Unfortunately, the world keeps needing saving. But, that's the nature of it. If it was easy, we'd live in a perfect world. We'd be perfect people living in a perfect world. So how can you go about changing things? Well, I did a video about Project Mayhem and set out 11 rules. It's a very long video. It's 23 minutes. But rule 2 is possibly the most effective as a broad sweep thing. And rule 2 is cancel and tell. And what that means is you cancel services. You cancel, your streaming services that you can. If you've got programs that have subscriptions, you look at cancelling those. And look, not everybody can cancel everything. That's fine. You cancel what you can. So have a look at what there is and go, do I really need that? Am I getting the value out of this that I should be getting? And for a lot of things, you're not. So, but cancel and tell. You cancel. If you're only going to write to one person, writing physical letters is great. Emails can get ignored a lot easier than physical letters. You write a polite email and you say, hi, I'm cancelling this service because, and you give them reasons. Right? I mean, one of the problems with streaming services is they have been absolutely screwing over artists, right? In film and in music. And yeah, I always encourage you, buy DVDs, buy CDs, because also that way your stuff can't get changed and censored, which does happen. I can talk about this at some point, but there's lots of examples. You've also got people like Lily Allen, who has had a number of big hits and is a music artist who has been around for decades now. And she doesn't make enough money from the streaming services to actually make a proper living. She makes her living now by selling feet pics. So selling feet pics is her actual job now, and her music is her hobby, because streaming services pay a pittance. And with the film streaming services and stuff like that, they, they control what you watch. You go to watch something that you've been meaning to catch up on, it's not on there anymore. Or they don't have the entire franchise on there because of rights issues. Or they just don't want to carry it anymore. And the same with, look, a lot of these programs that have gone to a subscription model, there are free versions, open source versions of a lot of these programs. And you can make a donation. And it's good if you do donate to those, because they are trying to give you value. And some of them are almost as good or even better than some of the actual big name programs. And the point here is that this is where the hard yakka and the personal hardship comes in, because of course, if you cancel your streaming services, you don't have access to the stuff on demand that you originally wanted. But at the same time, you're sending a message that what you're offering isn't good enough. If you start cancelling the programs that you have on subscription, same thing. Now, if you're only going to send one letter or one email, ideally a letter, but emails will do, send it to your local politicians. Send it to the party that's in power, send it to the opposition, send it to someone, and say, I just wanted you to know that I'm unhappy with the way these laws, with the way these things are being done, and I've cancelled my subscription, and I think the political parties need to do a lot more about this, because people act like elections are the big changing point. And no, elections aren't. Elections are just when we get to vote. What determines policy is all the stuff that happens between elections. And, the billionaires and the corporations, they don't just come along at election time and say, oh, would you like a little bit of money, to the politicians with their lobbyists. They spend all the intervening time between every election going at the politicians saying, we want these changes, we want these things, we want these, tax benefits, we want this and that. That's what we need to do. And this stuff is scalable. You might sit there and say, but, look, I can't give up this because I need it, but I can give up these things. But what's one person going to do? I'm one person. What's that going to do? It's not going to do much. One person isn't going to do much. But that's why Rule 2 is cancel and tell. You tell everybody you can, why you're cancelling, what your issues are, because that can encourage someone else to cancel and tell, and you keep going. And that's how a groundswell starts. Montgomery started with one woman going, no, I'm not giving up my seat. The tree sitters that stopped the Franklin Dam, the Aboriginal tent embassy. Some people might argue that, what has it achieved? It keeps this stuff in the national consciousness. And my God, 53 years? If a bunch of people, it's changed over the years, there's been more and less people involved, but if a bunch of people can sit there and maintain a presence for 53 years, you can cancel a subscription and write a few letters. And the thing about making a nuisance of yourself to people in power is it's really satisfying. The great thing about sending physical letters is, especially to politicians, is they may not respond, but those letters get logged. You make your letters polite, you make them to the point, and you address only one issue in each letter, or maybe a couple of very tightly related issues. The more of these letters that the politicians get, the more they realise they have to change things. So, make a nuisance. Change takes time and effort. And all those examples I gave you, they didn't just change overnight. They changed over a long time. Some of them decades, hundreds of years. But the starting point is to make a nuisance of yourself. So come on, for the new year, whenever that new year is, if you're seeing this in November 2025, if you're seeing this in December 4062, make a nuisance of yourself to the people in power. Make their lives miserable. Make them work for all the misery they've given us. Because the thing is, they think you don't matter. But once we all start standing up and making a noise, they start to realise that you do matter. Because that whole thing that I said earlier about that's just the way things are, that is purely to keep us in our place. That is their way of shutting down any argument and having you just go, oh, okay, that's just the way things are. Don't accept it. Fight. Every day you can fight. I know some people can't do stuff every day. I know some people won't be able to, stop all their subscriptions. Whatever. You do what you are able to do. If you can only do something once a month or once a year, you do that. But if you can do it every day and make their lives miserable, that is a beautiful thing, and you are a beautiful person. So get out there and cause some grief to the system. Cheers, my freaky darlings.